Hello, I am Stephen Graham Jones. I am here with Cara Gee, who did My Heart is a Chainsaw out loud amazingly. You've seen her in Call of the Wild, you've seen her in Strange Empire. The first place I ever encountered Cara Gee was in The Expanse, where she brings Kamina Drummer to life and does that belter accent in a way that makes everyone else want to speak like that, you know? So welcome, Cara Gee.
Hey, Stephen Graham Jones, thank you very much.
I was wanting to ask you, and always wanted to ask audiobook readers this. Can you listen and read at the same time? Like I can't do that when I'm in front of a crowd or in wherever, and I'm reading from a page. The content doesn't go in my head; it just comes out my mouth. You know, can you listen and read at the same time?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I've never really thought of
Mhm,
it in those terms.
mhm,
I feel like when I'm reading out loud, I do feel like I kind of end up getting in this zone where
mhm,
like I'm seeing the words, but I'm also like in the scene. You know what I mean? So it kind of
mhm,
becomes like when it's when it's really flowing, it's almost
mhm.
like it becomes this kind of like synchronicity when it's going well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I bet with all your acting experience, you're really good at like. I bet you crawl into a character in a different way than when I'm reading a character. I'm just kind of reciting. I bet when you get into a character, you inhabit that space. You know?
I try. That's what
Yeah.
they give me the big bucks for.
Yeah. What is the setup for like recording an audiobook? Like I imagine it like that more cowbell sketch, you know, with you in this little sound booth and a producer saying, no, you know, I want you to emphasize that word, not this word. Is it anything like that, or how does it happen?
Yeah, that's like literally exactly how it is. With me in a tiny, tiny little room,
Uh-huh.
wearing sweatpants, wrapped
Hmm.
up in a cozy blanket, drinking tea all day. It's like I love it. It's actually
Hmm.
so cool. You just get to. I feel like so. I work with the audio engineer, and then the director is in my headphones, and uh, and I feel like I always try to just think like I'm reading the story for the audio engineer. I try
Oh,
to
okay.
engage him in that. You know what I mean? I'm like
Yeah,
storytelling.
yeah.
So
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Do you have like a special markup? Like, do you underline words that you want to hit, or how does that work? Did you just figure it out as you go?
I like to read the whole book in advance of beginning recording. I think that gives me a sense of the story and how it's supposed to feel. So when I'm reading it, it's a story that I already know. So I don't get into like underlining specific words or whatever. But I feel like when you know it, you can just share it.
Yeah, yeah.
So Stephen Graham Jones, I have some
Mhm.
questions for you.
I'm here.
What was your inspiration behind this novel? What was your inspiration behind My Heart is Chainsaw?
You know, it was my inspiration was all the homework I've been doing my whole life, I guess, of watching slasher movies. Since junior high, I've been living inside that shelf at the video rental store, and they just kind of all welled up inside me enough to where I had to get them on the page in some fashion. But to tell you the truth, Jade Daniels, she was not in the first draft of this novel. She just stood up from it after about 3 or 4 years and kind of claimed it and took it as her own. So it's really lucky when that happens in a novel that a character walks around and I just have to follow her and write down what she does. You know, instead of having to figure it out for myself, she figures it out for me. So it was really nice.
And that seems absolutely bonkers to me because she is such a firecracker and amazing that
Mhm.
you described watching her and just writing down what she does. So
Mhm.
I'm like, that's such a crazy thing to think that she wasn't even in it.
Mhm. Well, you know, I think it was lucky that she wasn't in it because then I wouldn't have been able to find Proof Rock and Indian Lake and Terra Nova and Camp Blood and Pleasant Valley, this whole setting. I think without Jade, I was able to map the story space out such that it became a real place. And then it became real enough that she could stand up from the water and walk around. So I think it all worked out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so significant to me that she is an Indigenous woman
Hmm.
uh, moving through this story. And I have to say that was a huge part of why what drew me to this book and why I wanted to do it. You know, it's so rare to see. I mean, for myself as an Indigenous woman, to see
Hmm.
myself reflected in, especially the horror genre, which is so full of stereotypes.
Hmm.
And I'm just curious, how aware were you of that and of subverting those stereotypes? Because I think that's one of the most powerful parts of this novel.
Thank you very much. No, that's definitely one of the things I'm going for, is to push back against the things that the audience expects. And the audience always expects the final girl to be this white woman or white girl, depending, maybe she's 16 years old, that is just I don't know, a shining example of everything good. Like she's an angel. And I worry that I think the final girl is a wonderful trope. She's a wonderful model for how to push back against bullies. But over the years, I think she's become an unattainable ideal. Like she's up there and all the rest of us are down here. And I really want to make the final girl identity that anyone can step into to resist the bullies in their life. And so, yeah, a big part of that's just making her real again, bringing her back down to earth. And Jade is Blackfeet. She's Indigenous. And all of my characters are always, whether I say it or not, that's my default setting. They're all like me. That's the way I guess I'm not very imaginative. That's the way I write, so that they all are.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of selecting a narrator? But I feel like
well, no, it was the easiest process of all. What happened was, I'm just hovering over my email like I do all day, and someone from the Simon & Schuster audio team wrote me and they said, "What about Cara Gee?" And like they hadn't even typed a question mark before I wrote back and said yes in all caps, So it was like there was no hesitation. There was no selection. It was just always you, as far as I was concerned.
Thank you. That's so funny. I feel like you didn't even know then, though, that I was like super into horror.
No, I didn't. I had no idea.
It's funny how the universe is just like.
I know. Well, what I find moving all across the country, doing stuff everywhere, and just hanging with people, is that natives are really into horror. I mean, I know that from just growing up and everything. Everybody I hung out with, but we're all. It seems like we're all into horror. I'm not sure why, but it really speaks to a lot of us, anyways.
Isn't that funny? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What's your nation? What's your
Blackfeet?
You're Blackfeet. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Which in Canada that's Blackfoot. It's the same people, but when the 49th parallel came, we became Blackfeet. So I never really understood how we became Blackfeet, but I know that everyone who ever does my little bio on the back of whatever I'm doing, they're always like, "You're just one Blackfeet, so you're Blackfoot, right?" And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Oh my God. Oh, that's really funny. I'm Ojibwe, and I feel like that's sort of similar with the Chippewa, where we're the same. We didn't draw that. Okay, cool. Yeah. Super interesting.
I keep flying this black bird around, but you did Black Sun with Rebecca Roanhorses, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's an amazing novel. Yeah,
loved it. I loved it. I'm so excited for the next one to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Such an interesting time for genre work in general, but I feel Indigenous people in genre.
Yeah. Well, I think for the longest time, it's like there were gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers said that the only natives who can get through are the ones who stick close to the like main trunk of literature, who are dealing with the oral tradition or struggling with history or issues and politics of identity and all that stuff. But there's a lot of us who are like, screw that, and we just run out into the thin branches and play with elves and werewolves and spaceships. And I think that's where we need to be.
Absolutely. I love that. I absolutely, yes, same. Totally. Also, like stoner comedy. Can we have any comedy, please? And can I?
We need that. Yeah, exactly. We need a strange brew,
It's true.
Yeah. Was there a best scene to crawl inside and read out loud in this novel for you? Or, I mean, I say that like maybe they're all terrible, but hopefully there was one that was less terrible than the others.
Terrible scene to read. Do you know what I was really looking forward to, and I don't want to spoil anything, but towards the end, when it gets gorier and more disgusting than you could ever imagine, I was
Yeah.
really into that. Um,
Yeah.
I so as I mentioned, I always try to tell the story for the audio engineer, and I
Hmm.
was the whole week that we were recording, I was like, just wait for it, just wait for it. It gets fucked up, it gets so fucked. It does. It's so disgusting. So thank you for that.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How is is acting and voice acting? Is there like some bleed over? I mean, it is about inhabiting a character and a voice and keeping it all consistent. But like I can't act. Even when I'm lying, I can't lie because everybody can tell I'm lying. You know. But and I'm not saying that acting is lying. I think acting is an art form that I can't even approach understanding. But what are the similarities? Where do they cross over?
Well, I think it's actually really similar. I think
Mhm.
that it's actually really neat to do an audiobook because you get to um, say, you know, so much of that subtext that when you're acting on screen, you have to just sort
Mm.
of contain. So to
Mhm.
actually get to say it and speak it feels like it always just feels like you're sitting around a campfire. That's the
Oh,
vibe.
that's cool. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool.
It's the same. I feel like, oh, it's so interesting actually. It's interesting to have to take on different voices. I feel like in that way
Mhm.
it's like a one woman show where you end up playing all these
Mhm.
different characters and trying to switch into it.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted to ask you actually about those Dutch characters at the beginning. What was your
Mhm.
inspiration for that?
I think my inspiration was, well, number one, my inspiration was slashers always start with a couple of people out doing something they shouldn't be doing, and then they get whacked, and we don't really see the killer. It's like a blood sacrifice that gets things rolling. However, I think my actual inspiration for them was back in 2016, maybe yeah, 2016, right around the time my novel Mongrels came out. Did a couple of events with the guy who wrote that novel Hex, Thomas. Oh, he says his name so much better than I do, but it's Olde, different word, Huevelt, Oldhevelt, something like. And I can't. He tried to tell me how to say it, and I could not ever get it right, so I don't want to butcher it. But he's from the Netherlands, and hanging out with him and listening to the way he intoned his words, it really like landed in my head and I couldn't get it out. And that was right around the time that I was discovering Jade in this novel. And so everything just kind of came together. But that scene with the Dutch kids was not originally at the front of the book. That scene was originally probably about 25% of the way into the book. And on revision, I slid it to the front of the book. Mhm.
Very powerful, very challenging as an audiobook actor. I can tell you, I'm very lucky. My husband happens to be Dutch, so I got him.
Wow.
I know. I got him to record all of those lines for me, and I tried my very best
Wow.
to copy what he did and not butcher it too badly.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Because, not having Dutch myself, I was having to just look at translations and stuff, and so I hoped I was getting it right. And I had a lot of people try to check it, but there's always a chance that I'm messing it all up. So if your husband didn't say it was wrong, that makes me very happy.
Oh, no, you're golden. Actually, I'll play you. I'll play you. I have a voice note. I have a voice note that is so funny of him uh, recording it in a way that is you will, I hope, appreciate. Let's see.
Mhm.
Okay, ready? Because he
Yeah.
really likes it and it's really silly, and I think you'll get a kick out of this.
Wat is er mis met haar mond?
You
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so cool.
can hear me in that back going, Jesus Christ. Because he's like going like, like
Oh, that's so cool. That's so excellent.
so silly.
Talking about scenes like that, what's your experience with like horror movies, horror books, horror audiobooks, anything like what horror and Final Girls both, I guess.
Yeah. I have never done a
Uh,
horror audiobook.
uh,
I've never done a horror film, but I would love to. I feel like
uh,
I really enjoyed them. I definitely have seen all of the Saw movies. But my favorite horror movie is, have you seen Lost Souls? It's Winona.
Wait. Yes, Lost Souls. Yeah, Winona Ryder, and it's about it's from that moment when we were doing like Antichrist stuff, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah. I think
yeah,
that's my favorite horror movie.
yeah. No, that's intense, and I like it has a really nervy ending too.
Yeah.
That movie. Yeah.
What's your favorite horror movie if you had to pick? That's a hard question.
Oh no, it's an easy question for me. It's Scream. Always keep this right here. Yeah. Yeah, Scream is where I live and breathe. When in 1996 I was in Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, working on my doctorate, and my rule I gave myself for doing something like going to grad school was that I had to only write. I couldn't like go out and do stuff and be happy. And you can be happy writing, I think. But and so I was up there in my room writing, and there come a knock on the door, and it's one of my friends, and he says, "Hey man, I'm taking you to a movie." And I said, "Hey, I'm halfway through a story, can't do that." And he said, "No, I'm taking you to a movie." And I said, "Listen, I got to finish a story tonight. I can't go to a movie. I'm sorry. Go by yourself." And he kept arguing. It finally got easier to just go with him to the stupid movie than argue with him. And so he took me to the movie, and it was Scream. And watching that movie, it was the most amazing. I think that's the most amazing screening I've ever been to, because suddenly everything I've been watching and reading and living in for my whole life mattered. Like people always dismissed it as like, it's just stupid Jason and Freddy and Michael stuff, but it suddenly mattered. And so I was there the next 6 nights in a row seeing it myself alone. So I saw that 7 times over that winter break. I think it was amazing. That's still my favorite.
Oh, that's so cool. I think that's really interesting that you say that all of a sudden everything mattered, because I feel like
Mhm.
we're entering this new era of horror with things like Jeff Barnaby's Blood Quantum,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Jordan Peele obviously with Get Out, and with of course your novel as
Mhm.
well, where there is this sort of heightened social awareness that
Mhm.
is I don't know, do you feel like there was always the seed of that in the horror genre, or is this something that is like completely new that people like yourself are going, hey, let's
Uh,
take the genre and put our point of view into it? What do you think?
I think it's always been there. I think that, yes, with Get Out, and also at the same time, Victor Laval's The Ballad of Black Tom, I think there were things happening that made the world realize that horror is not just this little bubble outside of the city where we do our own little, we dress up and wear these shirts and all that stuff. Like, I think before Get Out, people could dismiss horror. But after Get Out was so obviously in dialogue with the world in 2016 or 2017, it was right around then, that people had to reevaluate horror's relationship to the world. And so now people are understanding that we're like a funhouse mirror reflecting back the anxieties and concerns of the day, be it environmental concerns, be it safety in the suburbs, whatever it is. Horror can take it and feed it back to you in a way that you can process it sometimes.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I mean, I definitely see this in the novel with themes of the disparity between the classes, right? You have the
Yeah.
old town, and then of course all these new wealthy billionaires,
Mhm.
and looking at that, of course, from I think an Indigenous perspective is
Definitely.
uh,
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
interesting, right? Like you don't see that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's no accident that these business tycoons and media moguls are moving into what they consider pristine wilderness and so-called settling it, or discovering it and settling it and taking it away and just walking all over everybody who's there and just leaving wreckage in their wake, But it's like they're entitled to take it in a way. And also the fact that it is to them so pretty and pristine is like an invitation. And I think, of course, that's a terrible, dangerous dynamic. That's where colonialism starts, and so, yeah, on a small scale in Proof Rock, it's gentrification. In the larger scale, it's trying to live under a colonial regime, kind of.
And how satisfying that in your novel you get to basically put those people in a blender.
Yeah, there was definitely some thrill in writing that.
It's like chop them into little pieces.
I was going to ask you with audiobooks, with doing voice acting like this, do you find third person or first person easier to do, or do you have a preference for either?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I
Okay.
feel like as long as it's like the story lets you know kind of what it needs. I think that third person is sometimes there's a bit of relief almost when you get to that part where you can be the narrator, because I feel like the narrator ends up being sort of my closer to my own voice. Whereas if it's in first person, you have to stay in a character's voice the whole
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
But also I feel like if the character is full and alive, it's
Mm-hmm.
not sort of, I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I noticed, I listened to this audiobook production of My Heart is a Chainsaw, and it's just amazing. Just blew me away. You brought Jade alive. There's a part in My Heart is a Chainsaw where what's being relayed is a piece of Jade's childhood, and you're able, I don't know how in the world you do this, you're able to make the delivery, your delivery of that scene younger. Like you don't change the words, you don't necessarily change your diction, but you're able to do something, like you inflect it where I feel like Jade is now 11 instead of 17. And I have no idea how you did that, but it made the scene just really pop to me.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I don't know. I feel like that would be the time where I'm in flow, because there was nothing, I didn't plan that.
Mhm.
But also, I feel like that's on you, the way it's written. You know, if it feels like that, then that will come across.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Are we a
Did
dream team? We're a dream team. Basically, we're a dream team. Let's make the movie.
what about the slasher 101s, which are the little extra credit essays that Jade is writing for her history teacher, Mr. Holmes? They're sandwiched between the longer chapters, and she's not the best writer, Jade. She talks wonderfully, like a lot of people. When she writes, it's a different beast altogether. How was it like juggling her sometimes poor grammar and lack of punctuation and stuff?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked, because I have been wanting to give you shit for that. It's so hard. It was so hard. Those were the most challenging parts, actually. Those were, I would read those in advance and like really like get myself ready, because it also has a pace to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of have to do that one quickly because she's thinking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely it's really challenging, and I'm mad at you.
One of those, the second to the last one of those, where what Jade is talking about is the dance between the final girl and the slasher. That was the part I was most excited to hear, because that's like, for some reason, that's the most touching part to me, of the whole slasher theorizing that she does, But so I guess I'm just saying, if this isn't a question, this is just me saying thank you for doing it so well, that it was really neat to hear it in my ears instead of with my eyes,
Well, the final girl thing is so interesting, right? Like it's just such an interesting trope, and I feel like the way that Jade sort of reclaims that in this novel is so empowering, and I think that Letha is an interesting sort of person for Jade to be pushing against with how she defines herself. I think that this image of her as that, well, I mean, you spoke about this earlier, is this like perfect figure, when Jade feels so far from that.
Yeah. No, it was really fun to set Letha up like that as this unattainable ideal, but then to make her actually good. Letha is so like, she doesn't have a bad thought in her whole body. She is completely self-sacrificing, and like, give her a sword, she'll take on an army. She's that kind of girl for sure. But Jade has to, you're right, Jade has to learn that it's not about being a final girl, is not about what you wear on the outside, it's about what you got on the inside.
Yeah. Ugh. And then sometimes you have to just like fight for your life in
Exactly.
a sludgy pit of body parts. Been there.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, it was so wonderful talking to you, Cara. It couldn't have been better. Very great.
I've been really looking forward to it. I'm glad that we had a chance to connect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, take care and good luck.
All right. Everyone go listen to My Heart is a Chainsaw. Listen to Cara Gee bring Jay Daniels to life.